we trained for it. It sucks because you have all like we're already wearing gear. Throw a gas mask on with a ventilator and all this, and you're just fogging. It sucks. It sucks.
I mean, those are scenarios, and obviously you have to do it. I would. That does sound like it sucks, but again, you went into these places where shit was down, right? Might not be a nuke or something, but you're in South Korea, and there's a concern about that while you're there. So like, there's a reality you have that, like, no disrespect to me, but I'm not getting that when I'm on Twitter, just like hearing about something. You know what I mean? Halfway around the world, Do you ever feel like, from your seat and from the things you've seen, like society, people have no idea how fragile and how on edge things are at all times? Or do you feel like there's some sort of order that keeps things balanced and like, yes, we got to worry about these threats, but they're probably not going to happen?
Two parts of that. I don't think about it too much how I view different than what other people view. I mean, I did initially when you join the Navy and you're 18, I'm going through the pipeline and I'm filling out a will at 18.
Filling out what?
A will.
Oh, a will. Yeah.
And like, didn't realize when I went home, visit all my high school friends, like, they're like, what? Why would you do that? Like, so you're already doing things and being exposed to things that aren't normal at the time, right? So making sure you have your mop level gear and your gas mask loaded up when you go to Korea is just normal. It's just a normal thing. I think in some aspects we are like on a razor's edge for something really bad happening, but at the same time, I think there's a lot more to lose on either side, whether it be between two countries or two separate parties. There's enough mutually assured destruction and ties, either financial, economical, that they're both going to lose so much if they take that one step extra. No.
I had a long, really good back and forth with Sean Ryan when he was on my show about the power grids, because he knows so much about that stuff. And, like you, he comes from that background, so he's thinking about stuff I don't even consider. But, that has always been in the back of my head, that it's like, okay, if country X decided to hit our power grid somewhere here and killed millions of people or something like that, what could we do to them?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, like I know, for example, Russia has had this power for a long time. Like, they were testing this on Ukraine in like 2014, 2015. Had Andy Greenberg in here, episode 99, telling us all about it. Like, he wrote a book about it called Sandworm. But like, they haven't done that here, because not that you should ever think like this, but it harkens back to the times of like the nuclear panic in the 60s, where you literally had people in the U.S. State Department. I think this was a very wrong way to look at stuff, but they looked at things like, oh, well, if they did it, we'd lose 60, but they'd lose 240. We win.
Yeah.
And technically you do, but it's like, holy shit, 300 million people and 60 of your own just died. I don't want you thinking like that, but there is that mutually assured, to use your term, mutually assured destruction thing that gives, say, these other powers that might not like us that pause.
Yeah. It's like, hey, if you do this, you have to weigh the repercussions, and they go, oh, it's not worth it. Yeah. Let's go pick on a smaller country. Yeah.
What about like biologic weapons though and stuff? Did you do things preparing for that?
It's all the same stuff. You wear the same suit. Apparently, I talked to some EOD guys and like, dude, there's stuff out there that it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You're fucking done. I'm like, oh, that's good to know. I'll still put it on and I feel brave enough to go do the mission as my skin's melting off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, don't tell me that, dude. There's some things like, I'm okay being ignorant to that.
Yeah.
Let me feel safe in my little rubber suit.
And then you go quickly.
And then I die. I'm fine.
Yeah.
At least I won't be thinking about it the whole time, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. That's the other one that scares me, though, because that's the shit you really can't even see.
No.
Like, there's been all these movies and shows. I remember like 24 had like sarin gas or whatever, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we've seen that deployed in Syria and how bad that is. But like, you could just like someone could stick something in a train station out here and spreads to the whole system. Gone.
Yeah. Wild.
It's scary.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's almost so scary. I just don't even want to accept that it's a thing.
Right.
Just walk around scared all the time.
Were you ever like in some sort of intel briefing where you were just like, holy shit?
No,
No.
everything was pretty cut and dry. Well, the first deployment in Iraq, they're like, make sure you bring your gas mask on this one. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Guess I'll bring my gas mask on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were worried about Saddam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deploying some stuff. Yeah.
Danny Hall was saying, I hope I remember this right when I had him in here. He and Ryan Tate, they were two guys who were in Iraq. Danny Hall was a sniper in the teams or in Spec Ops, and then Ryan was a recon Marine. But they're, the whole like WMD thing with Iraq, obviously he didn't have nukes, but they did both say that he did have biologics and they had access to that.
Yeah.
So that was real. And that's scary. A guy like that having that. I mean, we've seen what Assad has done.
Yeah.
That's the shit, they don't talk about on Fox and CNN. They don't fight over that stuff.
I can't. I can't with the media right now. I can't.
Do you ever get asked to go on like any of those main channels?
I will say this. When I did the book launch, I have a book.
Let's plug it. Let's give the name. We're going to have the link in description.
American Mercenary. Pick it up on Amazon and buy it. It's awesome.
Anything else in the works there?
Yeah, I got some other stuff going on.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Talking to a big studio, maybe doing an adaptation of the book to screen. So we'll see.
Let's go.
It's going well,
Okay.
so we'll see.
But you were saying you were talking about in your book with something with the media?
Yeah, so the marketing, marketing plan to get your book out there, and we can get you on these networks. I said, look, I don't want to even appear on network A or network B. Because if I appear on network B and someone turns on the TV, they're going to go, he's that all the way. If they turn on the TV in 1 second and they see I'm on network A, they go, he's that all the way. And I'm not any of those all the way. So I said, just keep me away from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing the independent media is good for you.
Yeah, let's go independent.
It's a good style for you.
Yeah.
But you do have to go out there, like especially with books. That's a hard business. I have guys in here all the time pushing books. Like everyone's got a great story, but you got to put yourself out there and get people to want to learn more.
To a point, right? If I say that's not worth it to me, I'm not going to do it. Like, oh, you're going to lose it on book sales. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not going to sell my soul or put myself in a situation because I might get 50 more book sales or whatever it is. I don't care. I don't care enough to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been kind of putting it off all day, but let's get to the second half of your career, if you will, here. So just for a timeline in my head, you were with Team 17 in Korea. Was that the last, like, deployment you did?
Yep.
And that's like 2014, something like that?
2014, 15, yeah.
Okay. So when you come home, is that when you go, I'm out? Or did that take another year or two?
I come home, I'm doing the, hustling, trying to see where pots of money are at SEAL Team 17 to keep going to more schools, right? I'm like, what about this, what about that one? I think I even jump on one of those container ships one more time just to go get some scratch, right? Make some money. And during this time, I get a phone call. It's like, hey, are you out? I go, yeah, I'm out. He's like, we're doing some pretty wild stuff, like some dynamic, cool shit. And I said, yeah, I don't believe. He's like, meet me for dinner. I said, okay. Went back into SEAL Team 17. I said, hey, am I going to be able to get into this particular school I wanted to go to? And they're going to get funding for it. They're like, oh, yeah, dude, you're a shoo-in. Cool. I put off dinner meeting with the other guy, and then the next day they came in. They're like, sorry, man. Someone from SEAL Team 18, they filled it, that billet. And I said, okay. So I called the guy. I said, all right, I'll meet you for dinner. Let's talk about this cool shit you have going on.
Who is this guy?
A guy I knew from the SEAL teams.
Okay.
Yeah. So I meet up with him, and he's like, hey, we're doing this, this, and this. It's fucking dynamic. It's crazy. And I go, I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. He's like, okay, I want you to meet the Prime.
The Prime.
The Prime. The guy who has the contract. Come meet him like tomorrow night up in Rancho Santa Fe. Super rich area of San Diego. Okay. Show up, hear him out. A lot of like measuring each other. Like, what is this bullshit? I'm like, where's the money coming from? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I can tell I'm asking him too many questions, but he's like, listen, It's all legit. It's a real deal. Are you in? I said, if I'm in, when do we leave? He's like, next Friday. I said, I'll think about it. He's like, oh, and if you say yes, you're going to have 20 grand wired in your account by the time you get home. I was like, fuck.
Sign me the fuck up, boy.
Let's go. And then at 12:01 midnight plus 1, I get an alert, deposit made. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying. I could tell there's some stuff you can't really say there for sure. So if I delve into some things like that, just tell me. But like, what is who is this guy?
All right. So this guy is a dear friend of mine, ex-Israeli special forces, badass dude. And he put together a team. We fly into Yemen and we're working with the Emirati special forces, UAE.
As a mercenary.
Yes, as a mercenary, training them to be able to go do special forces type missions. And that's how it started, was us training with them. And we tried to do some practice runs that did not go well.
What do you mean?
Let's go out in town. Let's train for this mission out in town, not next to the bad guy's house, but near it. And the communications were wrong. Like, it just was a fucking train wreck. And I eventually got to the point where I said, fuck it, just let me roll out. I'll do it. I'll do it myself. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I was like, fuck it. Like, this is too easy.
Yeah.
He's right there. Let's go get him. It's like, no, you can't, because it has to be with them.
Right.
Okay, give me 2 and just have them stay with the car. Right? Like, no. So we spun up a couple times to go do some stuff, and like last minute, we get a call. Hey, hold off on that. We're like, what the fuck? And while this is going on in Yemen, I'm like, getting super frustrated. And I'm coming up with a game plan because the guys we're working with, they're not able to operate at the level I'd like to be able to go with, right? So I said, can we sell them like a 6-month pipeline? I'll run it. I'll run these guys. And so that went up the chain of command. And it was the end. But one night we're all outside, then we start to hear snaps. Pop, 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 snap, snap, overhead. And I'm like, oh, and our base was like 1 mile by 1 mile. That was a square mile. HESCO barriers full of sand. And we hear the Colombians, there's a Colombian mercenary contractors on the guard tower, just fucking opening up. Like, bop, 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 bop. And then we hear boom. Like, I think 3 vehicle-borne explosives went off. Like, boom. And like, I was on top of the HESCO barrier and I like flopped up. Boom. I was like, damn, that's close. And we can tell the explosions were getting closer and closer. They were getting through each checkpoint. And the way it was to get in the base, S turns and checkpoint. So there's like, car 1, boom, okay. And then car 2 would get to the second checkpoint. So they were working their way to the base. And if they got in, there was nowhere to fucking go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are these Houthi forces? Okay.
Yeah. So the Colombians up there, they have like 40 mics, machine. They're just unloading everything. Just fucking. We get up there, I'm like, hey, what are you guys shooting at? There's an empty field with a couple bodies, and then there's a giant boulder. They're like, dude, there's one guy behind the boulder. I'm like, that's it? It's fucking just like, are you trying to break the boulder with your guns? Like, what are you doing?
See.
Yeah, see. Then all of a sudden, I hear an Apache just come in overhead, and just dip down, just burp, and then take off. Well, that was that. And then shortly after, that was the end of that contract. So fast forward.
Real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just, for how I understand this, I've had like Dale Comstock in here, who's like the most recognized mercenary in the world, but it still confuses me what the legality is on some of this, like if there's gray area, because I mean, you're dropping into areas that would be considered somewhat war zones and whatever, but you're not representing a government, you're representing a private contractor, and you're fully fucking kitted up with weapons. So
that's where you can be gray and not gray. Okay. Say, I'm advising and assisting these people on this thing. Okay. Now, if I'm advising and assisting and then something bad happens while we're out and I pick up a rifle to defend myself, are you going to really prosecute me?
Oh, I see.
Like an intent versus... So it is gray, 100%.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a dance, for sure.
All right, but you were saying this one, that was the end of this
deployment. That was the end of it. And so they said yes to the 6-month training program. Boom. Fly over and start training the Emirati Special Forces. In the UAE, totally chill, range stuff, XYZ. One night, I'm not there, and the guys I'm with, they're like, dude, we saw some other guys here with like high-speed night vision, mismatching camis. And I'm like, that's weird. The next night, I see those guys. I go to the training site, and I'm like, bro, is that you? And he turns around, he's like, Dorey, is that you? I'm like, what are you doing here? And they're like, what are you doing here? And there are 2 guys I had known that were active duty.
Oh.
And I said, where are you? I'm like, where are you guys? What are you guys doing? You guys getting ready to go somewhere? Like, yeah, we might be going, a little head nod to the southwest. And I'm like, I've been to that place. And he's like, when? And I told him when. He's like, we need to meet. We go meet up with them, me and my boss, and we're at the Jumeirah Towers Hotel. I'm sure they changed the name by now. We're hanging out, and they're like, dude, we go through it all, and it turns out that they were working with an entity.
Okay.
And they were going to drop kinetic strikes on the 2 targets we were going to roll on while we were in Yemen.
Oh, shit.
And that's why we kept getting called off. We didn't know why. It was because they knew there was like a friendly force, but we didn't have blue force trackers or anything. And we were getting like, we didn't want a hellfire dropped on our head, but we were frustrated, didn't know why, but thank goodness.
Yeah, you'd been killed.
Yeah. By our own shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, fuck.
That's so trippy. You go halfway around the world, run into your boys. Wait a minute.
What are you doing? Let's have a conversation.
Same place.
Yeah.
So and this is just during that training time with the Emiratis.
So we do a big FTX. We show them because the plan was, look how good we trained them. Let's deploy with them like we tried to and go do some cool shit. And they're like, no, thanks for your training. Beat it. So then me and one other guy, my boss, we did some contracts and stuff we can't talk about. Good stuff. And then
good stuff.
Traveled around, did some cool shit, and
a lot of bodies left behind.
No, it's not all like that, man. One, we get calls. It's like, hey, this guy is dual citizen, so are his kids, and he's keeping them in country X, and like the mom is a full American, wants her kids back, but he's connected to so and so in that country. Can you go get him? So you get calls like that too. Like, it's
that's
not all.
fun.
Yeah, it's just more like a problem solving company is what we would be, right? So
this isn't Black Cube, is it?
With Black Cube.
All right, good answer. All right, continue.
So
that one's getting clipped.
Is Black Cube the ones that set up people? Like they did a big thing and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk off air on that.
Yeah. I know they are now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of, you're basically saying it's a lot of random shit where you need very highly trained individuals who can quietly go get something done, essentially.
Yeah. And it might even just be the contacts, like my boss or me. I know the guy who knows the guy who works at Ministry of Police, and we'll just go do it. So that's it. I mean, it's not all crazy running and gunning.
Yeah.
It's not. So did that, and then I got something across my desk was, hey, there's a dude that's living in Belgrade who's a big time bad guy financer, Arabic dude.
Terrorist financer?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, this isn't running around Yemen. This is Belgrade. And they're like, we just need dirt on him. We need some not so halal activities, right? And I've seen that before. I've been in Bahrain coming back from Iraq and seeing dudes wasted.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, yeah, all I cannot see in Bahrain. I'm like, damn, okay. Like, so there is proclivity for people to be acting a certain way in different places that are not their home country, that I've seen. So
they only wanted dirt on the guy. It wasn't
to leverage
like
him to
kill
stop.
This guy or something. Yeah.
And because you're in Belgrade, you're not gonna go kill. Like it's still a European-ish country.
Yeah, it's an international issue.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm like, that's easy day. I don't like. All I need is my camera, work some sources. I'm there. So
real quick, I'm sorry to ask, but had you done training for surveillance as well in your years in the teams? I take it. Mm-hmm. So you knew that. Okay.
Yeah. So I beat the streets, and Serbia is a beautiful fucking country. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And just get the lay of the land, meet some high rollers, meet some guys that, not the highlights of society, everywhere in between. Trying to see if this guy's like into prostitutes, into kids, into drugs, like just really trying to find anything on this guy. And this guy's fucking clean as a whistle. I'm like, fuck, this sucks. I'm just grinding. And then, I had recruited a source, kid I made friends with, and I was at his house. He takes a phone call one night, leaves. 45 minutes later, the door busts open, and I see him like fly across the floor in handcuffs. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I look up, and there's a gun at my forehead, and I just see it like right here, and I can hear the magazine shaking and rattling because the guy's so nervous. And I try to like zoom out more, and I see it's a uniform, and it's a cop uniform, but it looks like it was bought at like Party City. It looked like really cheap. I'm like, is this a fucking like fucked up prank from this kid? Like, what is going on? And then 4 more cops show up, and then 2 plainclothes cops show up, and I'm like, what the fuck? And they're just yelling at me in Serbian, and like, I don't know what they're saying. So I just like, maybe if I just put my hands up slowly, that's a good start. And it was. And then, I got handcuffed behind my back, thrown on the ground, and, knee in my back. And they're like, just barking at me in Serbian. I'm like, bro, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Like, American? I'm like, yeah. They're like, American? I'm like, yeah, yes, American. What are you doing here? I'm like, we're going to have a party. No, why are you in Serbia? I'm like, why not? Like, what's the big deal?
Love this country.
Yeah. Do you have a passport? Yes, I have a passport. Like, what are you talking about? Where is it? Like, it's right here. So they start searching this kid's house. They go down to his garage where he has this big safe, and they pull out all these guns, like a million, like 50 guns. But he's a hunter, and like they're all registered and shit.
Okay.
Right? But they're like, oh, American, you like guns. I'm like, as much as the next guy, I don't know. And this goes on, and one of the plainclothes cops speaks English. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Am I under arrest? They're like, you are now. I'm like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Like, what do you mean I am now? Like, what's changed between now and 10 seconds ago?
Yeah,
like, what,
strange.
What the fuck are you talking about? And the kid whose house I was with, he's like locked up, and then all of a sudden, his mom, who lived on the first floor, like 4 stories below his flat, she comes flying in, wailing and crying, and the cops have to take her out. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Like, I have no idea what's going on. More conversation in Serbian, like you're going to police station. Fine, whatever. Get in the car, and then we both get put into a car, and there's 2 other guys in handcuffs. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Who are these 2 other guys?
Yeah, because you were there alone doing this, right?
Yeah, I'm like, who are these 2 other guys? Well, doing this, I wasn't doing anything illegal. I was just trying to find out information on somebody, right? It's not something you should get arrested for. No. So I'm like, who are these 2 other guys? And I go to the police department, it's like, spread your cheeks, lift your sack, full. I'm like, what? Fine, do my thing.
They stick a finger up there?
No. You could tell the cop was like, yeah, okay, that's enough. He's like, okay. Like, I'm doing this out of protocol. I'm not really enthusiastic, thankfully. So we get there, and I'm sitting in this little room. It's, the bench is just long enough that it's not big enough for me to lay down in. I'm like, God damn, I get the wool blanket. I'm just sitting there. Then I get pulled out. There's this big, huge dude, cop, and he's like, what's up, man? I'm like, what's up? He's like, CIA? No. DEA? No. FBI? No. Like, just ask me every alphabet. I'm like, no. What are you doing? What do you do for work? I'm like, oh, I'm a private contractor. He's like, oh, yeah. What'd you do? Wow. What qualifies you to do that? I'm like, oh, I was a Navy SEAL. And he's like, oh, you're special forces in Serbia. That's very interesting. And I'm like, what? Why? And then I was like, oh, yeah, Kosovo. And
right. Oh, they don't like you.
I was like, oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, I was at my buddy's house. He's like, So he got arrested for drugs. I'm like, I did not.
Oh, it was for drugs?
Yeah. So apparently we were going to have a party.
Sounds like a good party.
Not my cup of tea. I'll drink all the tequila in the world.
You keep saying that. We'll go with it. He's under the table. Oh, God.
Zyn is good enough for me. I put 2 6 milligrams in, I'm wired. So this guy takes a phone call. He goes to another city to buy drugs. Well, the drug dealer, that guy's dad got arrested 3 months ago for guess what? Dealing drugs.
Yeah.
So the police have been listening to his phone.
Oh, no.
So the drug dealer is with a friend, and then the guy I know was there to buy. And what do drug dealers carry on them to protect themselves?
Guns.
So boom, those 3 get arrested. I happen to be at the kid's house, and they go back to search his house. I'm like, "Who's this guy?" I'm like,
He's the kingpin.
Yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the drug lord. So I get wrapped up into this, right? And the good, I call him the good cop, the big dude. He's like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, he can tell I wasn't lying. He's like, "Holy shit!" He's like, "So you're not here for Vucic?" I'm like,
For what?
Vucic? I'm like, Vuk? Because I know Vuk means wolf in Russian. So like for a wolf, he's like, no, Vucic. I'm like, what is Vucic? He's like, our president. You're not here to kill our president. I said, no, I'm not here to kill your fucking president. Are you fucking crazy? He's like, yeah, I didn't think so. I'm like, cool, let's go. He's like, yeah, but the newspaper's already found out about it. I'm like, no shit. It's been like 4 hours. He's like, yeah. It's election year too, so
that there's a Navy SEAL and ex-Navy SEAL in
they're here to
custody.
kill the president.
Oh, here to kill the
Oh
president.
yeah. Oh, they were just like boom.
Are there articles about this right now?
Yeah.
Can we pull this up? Yeah, Navy SEAL kill Serbian president. I gotta see this for myself.
Yeah, they have me listed as like a Marine
How
Army.
did they get from cocaine to killing the president? I'm very confused.
I have no idea. And they never. Well, I never was charged with any of those things. So here we go. So so the good cop's like, look, dude, I believe you, but this has gone to the media.
Yeah.
He's like, you're fucked. He's like, you're famous and you're fucked. I'm like, but I didn't do anything. He's like, have we got anything there?
Yeah, I think we got one here. All right, we can switch to camera 5. Beautiful. All right, so the past several weeks have seen a peculiar set of events play out in Serbia that would make a plot worthy of any good espionage novel. It opened a rare window into an ordinarily opaque world. A former Navy SEAL who now works for a well-connected private military company, a Serbian arms dealer recently sanctioned by the United States government and seeking relief, purveyors of Washington money and influence, all find their way into the plot. Except here, the former Navy SEAL lands in a Belgrade jail and is held under a judicial detention order, while outside, he is daily tried in the virtual courtroom of the pro-Russia Serbian media, which hints or declares outright he is a professional assassin sent to kill Serbian leaders. Some go so far as to accuse him of the January assassination of high-profile Serbian political leader in neighboring Republika Spritska, where anti-Bosnian and secessionist sentiment runs high. To start at the beginning, on February... What year is this, by the way?
19, 20?
Okay.
18, 19?
All right, so this is before Ukraine.
Yeah, so this was the word instantly. Boom. And I'm like, what? No. And then, so the good cop's like, I believe you, but you're fucked. I said, okay, thanks for being honest. Puts me back in a little holding cage. I think
you got your wool blanket.
Yeah, my wool blanket. And they 2-3 days later, I get pulled out. Two other cops, plain clothes, and him. We get in there and there's this lady, like just big, huge lady smoking cigarettes. Like she's dressed like 101 Dalmatians bad guy, Cruella de Vil, but she was built like Ursula. And she's like, she's sitting there and she's like, make sign here, and gives me this paper in Cyrillic Serbian. And I'm like, bro, I'm not signing this.
Did you ask for a lawyer?
Yeah. They're like, yeah, you don't get one right now. They're like, oh, maybe some other day. Like, there's no like due process there. She's like, make sign here. I'd make translate you. I'm like, motherfucker, you ain't translating shit.
Popo Shime chorus, let's go.
Yeah, I was like, no. And then she's like, I'm like, well, what does it say? It says you have a gun and explosives. And I'm like, I do not have a gun and explosives. I'm not signing this. She's like, she like looks at the cop and she's like, they're like, like, oh, we tried. I'm like, motherfuckers. Like, just see if he'll sign it. I'm like, no. And they're like, okay. Okay, sign this. This says passport, your watch, ID, wallet. And I can make out like Rolex.
You sure?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there it doesn't say grenade.
And I was like, here, yeah, exactly, right, Granada. And I was like, boom, boom, look here. And she's like, okay. Got a bunch of DNA swabs taken from me. And they're like pinning me down, like holding my jaw open, like I'm going to bite them. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Then I get interrogated by the two new cops and the good cop who's sitting next to me. And he's like, hey, these guys are an organized crime unit because there's 4 people in your case. I'm like, I don't even know who those 2 other guys are. Yeah, but 3 or more, now it's being charged as an organized crime. It's being looked at as organized crime.
They're just going all over the board.
Oh, yeah, everything. Everything they were throwing at me. And I was like, okay. So they interrogate me, and I'm like, what? No, blah, blah, blah. And I dance with them, and then I just be quiet because I realize I'm getting really tired. I'm slipping a little bit. And they end the meeting, and they're like, we know you're trained, but even the best guys who are trained reveal something. I'm like, ooh, like, wow. Yeah. And it was cool. The good cop during this interview, the good cop.
I love that he's the good cop.
Yeah, he translated something from them. He's like, hey, they asked if you want to take a polygraph. And then he leaned in real close and said, say no. I was like, no. He's like, yeah. He said no. I was like,
Because they would rig it.
Yeah. He knew that. He's like, dude, you didn't do anything, but you're in for it.
Yeah.
So.
Are you thinking like, I'm fucked?
No, because I'm like, there's nothing there. I still didn't know why we even got arrested.
I know, but like, you're in a foreign country. They've decided they don't like you. You know you did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I thought maybe they'd say leave. Because you have to have something. You have to have one thing.
Right.
You have to have one thing.
Allegedly,
right? So I get put back down in a little holding cell. The next day we go to court and we have to make statements. And the lady's like, what were you doing? I'm like, I was at this guy's house. He left, he came back, arrested. I got arrested. She's like, okay, yeah, I don't really see any charges here, but you're an American and there's 4 of you in this thing. You guys are going to go to jail until this gets figured out. I'm like, awesome. Fantastic, right? Like, this is fucking crazy. And in the hallway of the courtroom, I met my lawyer, and he's like, there's a bunch of lawyers trying to represent me. And he's like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, say hi. I'm like, okay, you're my guy.
Right.
Yeah. And that was kind of a relief because that meant that people knew what was going on with me. Like, my people knew what had happened because, phone off, everything.
Is this the guy from the original meeting who wired the 20 grand?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's like, this guy knows you're here. I'm like, all right, cool. Roger that. Like, someone has my back. We're good to go. And then like, oh, so they put me in the first observation room, and I was in there with a hardcore criminal dude, like career criminal. And there's like a hole in the ground as the toilet. No toothbrush, no shower. You have a spoon, a blanket, and a bowl. And 3 times a day, they wheel a cart with a 5-gallon metal thing and with a ladle. And they go, here's your shit. And you're like, all right. And I did that for 3 days. And they're like, all right. And they put me into...
Did you talk with that guy at all?
Yeah.
Or he didn't speak any English?
A little bit. He's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I'm American. He's like, you're American? Oh, you'll be out tomorrow. He's like, did you really do nothing? I'm like, yeah, really. I have no idea. He's like, you have a blue passport? I'm like, got a blue passport. He's like, oh, embassy, you're good. I'm like, hey, man, thanks. Like, cool. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that.
He was wrong.
He was super wrong. Yeah. So prison guards, they then take take him and me. So that was just observation. I guess they keep you there to see where you're going to fit in well. But they put me in a special room. They put me in a room with a guy who murdered his wife with a hammer.
Oh, nice.
A Croatian terrorist. And
Excellent.
A dude who professionally kidnaps people for ransom.
You were on the all-star team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I walk in and, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I've seen all the movies. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to, like, stab somebody. You know what I mean? Like, here we go.
Put him up.
Yeah. So the guy walks up and he pulls out this shank. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then he reaches across me and grabs a bag of cookies and opens it up. And he's like, here. And I'm like... That's a weird way to open a bag of cookies, bro. Like, you almost had it coming, bro. I was like, holy fuck, dude. And they're like, calm down. You've seen too many movies. And I'm like, holy shit. This is going to be fucking fun, right? And they're like, oh, and they turn on the TV, my name, ticker, a stock photo of some operator in like a hat and gear. I'm like, oh my God, really? I thought I was going to be the gray man. Good cop was right. They had my shit.
Everywhere.
And it's weird in that country, being a criminal is like really highly romanticized. It's like cool. it's still like, oh, bad boy, cool, fucking cool shit.
Cool?
Cool. Especially amongst other criminals, like, oh, you're a fucking badass. You're a real deal. Like,
Okay.
like prison culture, tough guy shit, like gang shit. And I was like, fuck, so much for keeping a low profile. And when I walk in the halls to go to the cantina, you know, guys would salute me and the prison guards would salute me. I'm like, what?
They'd salute you.
I'm like, what? Because I found out everybody in prison and every like federal employee, they all hate the president. So they believe the headlines. And I was like, they're Messiah. And I'm
They're like, this is our guy.
And I was like, I just kind of rolled with it. I'm like, yeah, it was too bad it didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. So everyone's like, no, was it dangerous in there? I'm like, not really. Everyone thought I was awesome. They're like, that's weird. I'm like, I know. It's really weird. It was bizarre. And plus, Serbia is a pretty homogeneous country. Anglo-Saxon, white, Orthodox church. And so there's not like, you're this color, I'm that color. Not that should make anyone want to fight each other. I think it's ridiculous. But there's just all, and it's a small country. And when you're in there, it's us versus them, us being everyone behind bars and them being the system, right? So now's not the time to start being violent, go to court, and you're like, your lawyer's trying to say you're an angel and you just stabbed a dude in the neck, right? So it's like, let's all be chill.
But you're still not having any problems with guys being like, oh, was he in Kosovo? Or stuff like that?
Some of the old guards were, but I'm like, bro, do you think I was 15 flying a fighter pilot? Do you know how old I am?
Yeah.
Fucking idiot. Yeah. It's 99. I graduated high school in 02. Like,
fuck off and open up the bar.
Yeah. Stupid. So I was in that special room, which sucked because we only had 30 minutes a day on the walk outside.
Oh, you're 23 and a half down.
With a guy who hammer murderer, his wife. Right?
Was he a nice guy, though, at least?
He was super nice. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Did he do it?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Apparently, when he was living with his mom, and like his mom's got crystal balls and she's a witch or whatever, and they went to the house to investigate. In the whole house, there was not one piece of DNA or fingerprint on the entire house, like bleached, clean head to toe. She's like, oh yeah, I just did a cleaning. That's just how I roll. Okay. So I'm in that room, and you know, it's like these guys are staying up super late, giving each other tattoos with like fucking razor blades and broken pens, and I'm like, dude, they're like, oh, Foka, yeah. So they called me Foka, Foka, because I don't think the newspaper knows that SEAL is an acronym, so they just called me SEAL, like the animal, and Foka means like the animal seal in Serbian. Right. Like, oh, Foka, you need to get a tattoo. I'm like, I'm not getting a fucking prison tattoo with a razor blade. Get the fuck out of here. But then I was on the top bunk, and the hammer murderer was underneath me, and his radio was on when he had passed out because they're all on drugs.
He's gonna keep hammering.
So I just took the radio one night, and I just spiked it, and I found out later that like it takes 6 months to get a radio approved.
Oh, wrong guy to do that with.
No, I would have fucking destroyed him.
Yeah. Oh, you would have.
Oh, yeah. So I bounced it on the ground, and then
hammer or no hammer?
No, I don't need that. He can have 2 hammers. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're confident. That's good. Yeah.
So I spike his radio, and the next day I'm out of the room. Thank God. So now I got brought into another room that gets 2 hours a day on the walk.
There you go.
With all the other inmates. Because when I was with that first room with the 3 other guys, the hammer murderer and his crew, our 30-minute walks was just us. So like it was like really daunting being in that fucking room.
Are you outside? Like actually,
it's weird. It's weird. It's a big rectangle outside, and the walls are made up of the prison that are really high. So there's never like direct sunlight, but you can see the sky.
Right.
Yeah. So I got put into a room with like a junkie, a Canadian Aussie who just got wrapped up for a massive cocaine deal by Interpol, and then a dude who's a state-sponsored killer who runs the whole block.
Like, state-sponsored killer?
Yeah. Like,
what does that mean?
Like he kills people in the state by order of the state. Unofficially.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And I'm like, oh, this guy's a serious deal. And then we were kind of like, why would they put us together? And like, we're like checking for microphones and shit. But he was cool. He ran the prison. And, you know, that was probably at 2 months in, and 3 months in was when embassy started coming, and embassy was of no help. The guy was terrified. And he's like, oh, how's the food? I'm like, it's shitty. Can you change it? He's like, no. I'm like, well, quit asking. Like, they didn't do anything. Like, oh, the newspapers are looking pretty bad against you. I'm like, what? Shut up, dude. It's worse than the National Enquirer. Like, do you even believe American news? Like, come on, bro.
I'm surprised. I know you're not actively in the teams at this point, but I'm surprised it was like that low touch point from that, like just a basic embassy guy coming. Like this is kind of a big deal. You're being accused of bullshit.
Yeah.
Of like trying to kill a president. Like this is a geopolitical nightmare. You would think they're like sending the fucking Secretary of State there.
I think people were interested. So in April, we went to a small trial. Court made statements again. She goes, I don't see any reason to charge you. You're free to go. Awesome. Been here 3 months. Learned some chess.
Good vacation.
Easy day. Yeah. Go back. And as soon as I get to my cell room, I start packing up my shit into a black trash bag. That's the luggage of prison.
Right.
And the guard's like, Foca. Advocate, lawyer. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I grabbed my bag. He's like, no, leave it. Okay, so I go to my lawyer. He's like, yeah, when you left, she got a call. And they said you will be charged with something. I'm like, get the fuck. He's like, yeah. I'm like, what are we talking? Another month? He's like, I'm like, another 6 months? He's like, I'm like, bro, we're going to be here a year? He's like, dude, I don't know. I know in the end it's going to be okay, but it's going to be a long fucking time, so settle in. I was like, Jesus motherfucker, Christ. Dude.
Now it's got to set in a little bit.
That's when I was like, okay, I live here now. When April hit and I thought I was free to go, and then my lawyer's like, you're going to be here a long fucking time. I was like, okay, this is my home.
2019?
I think so. 2018, okay. I don't remember.
The pandemic's not happening.
No.
Right, okay.
So I'm like, this is my home, and then just the doldrums of fucking being in prison and fucking seeing guys come and go, and they're like, yeah, I beat the shit out of this kid. I beat him to death, but the camera didn't catch it all. I'm free. I'm like, I didn't do it. How did you come in and you're out and I haven't fucking done anything? But this is fucking crazy. Like I'm happy the kid's free. Maybe he should be, I don't know, but I'm jealous, right? I was like, God damn, dude. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get in great shape. I'm going to learn Serbian. I'm going to get good at chess. I'm going to make the best of this time, right?
Did you learn Serbian?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So learned some Serbian, and finally, so legally they're supposed to charge me within 6 months of arresting me. They charged me in month 11.
They did charge you.
After holding me for 11 months, they charged me.
Now, during this whole time, before we get to the charges, are you constantly worried about like someone wearing a wire around you or shit like that? No. Record me. What am I going to say that's incriminating? I mean, but the thing is, you could say like, hey, I'm coming over for dinner at 6. Mm-hmm. You know, let's have some spaghetti, and it sounds like it's code for something. You know what I mean? Like people can make wires sound however they want.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no, but like.
You weren't that worried?
No. Okay. No.
You don't seem like a worrier.
No, I'm at 0. I don't care. No fucking care.
Pat's over here like, God damn.
So I get charged, and my lawyer brings me in. He tells me, dude, you got charged. I'm like, good. Because it's an event, right? It means something's going to have to start happening.
Right.
I'm like, what are the charges? Like owning and distributing firearms and explosives. I'm like, what? Fine, whatever, right? Cool. He's like, yeah, they have your DNA on the gun. I'm like,
oh,
how?
No.
Well, they took a couple swabs. I'm like, well, tell them they didn't touch it. He's like, well, that's not going to fly because in Serbia, DNA is king. DNA, you're done. Here in the States, like, it's transferable. Like that's a piece, but it's not the end all be all here in the States because they know that's not how DNA works.
Right.
But he's like, dude, there's DNA. So we have to come up with a reason that he showed it to you, you touched it. I'm like, okay, fine. Whatever we've got to do to satisfy the DNA, fine. Even though they took enough cotton swabs, they could put DNA in a fucking tank right now.
Right.
Like, I'm like, fine. I'm like, who's our judge? Couldn't get a judge for another month because no judge wanted the case. Because you have this political pressure that even the president was like, oh, he wasn't here to shoot fish in the Danube River with that gun. I didn't have a gun. What are you talking about? So there's that. There's this pressure that I'm this bad guy. And then there's the pressure of people doing their jobs as a judge because there's no jury there. It's just a judge, one person. And they have to look at the facts. So if they do their job, look at the facts. There's nothing to even keep me there another day. But it looks bad after all the shit that was talked about me.
Is it an elected judge, though? Or is it
I don't know how they're...
Because I would think, this is like a political kind of, you know how that works.
Yeah.
And there could be pressure, but.
So we finally got a judge. And my lawyer calls me in again. You got a judge? I'm like, yes, He's like, no, bad. I'm like, why is this bad? Come on. It's a woman. I'm like, who fucking cares? He's like, yeah, but women aren't good for men crimes. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's a gun involved. I'm like, bro, it's kind of sexist, but like, I'm just happy we have a judge, but sure. Right. I was like, whatever. And then trial starts in January. So I got arrested in January. My first day of court is in the following January. And the way court works there is because they're so backed up on everything. You go in and you do, have to get transported. And I get transported in my own little paddy wagon with MP5s on either side of me. Like they put on a show when they transfer me back and forth and walk me in the courtroom.
They put you in the Bane mask.
I was ready to be Hannibal Lecter, bro. I was like, really, guys?
I was raised in the dark.
Exactly. The nighttime is dark for me. It's for everybody, bud. So, and they're like, the guards are like kung fu gripping me for like a year. Every time they move me around, they're like, oh, this guy's the most, newspapers saying I'm the most dangerous man that's ever even been in the country and all this crazy shit. And we go make opening statements. So you make opening statements and then you leave and come back a month. And then you do the next part and the next part.
You wait a month after opening statement?
And then they do examination. And then a month cross-examination, and then a month evidence, and then a month. Like, that's how the court works there. It's not like you start court, 12 days later, it's over. It's boom, leave, boom.
Okay.
So we show up and opening statements, horrible translator. I'm just like, what? Yeah, I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going on. I'm beyond like disbelief that this is even happening still. And I've been in prison now for 12 months. I've been for a year.
Yeah.
So I like, you can't be nervous or scared that long. You just don't give a fuck anymore. Like, this is fucking stupid. Opening statements go down, go back to prison. Everyone's like, how'd it go? I'm like, I don't know. And then go back the second or third time when they're like, oh yeah, the translator's not here. Go back, come back in a month. I'm like, motherfuck, dude. So we go through everything. We finally get to the last court date. And then like, okay, we're going to do verdict the following week. Don't have to wait a month, just a week for the verdict.
It's the last court date, basically closing arguments?
Yep.
Okay. Closing
arguments. And then 7 days from there is going to be verdict. Okay, go in. I'm ready. I'm looking at 12 years or some crazy shit.
Wow.
Or something crazy, right? All right. I guess I'll go. At least I'll go to the prison where I can go run and work out outside. I'm like planning my life, right? So we all have to stand up and like, you three guys, and you're a drug dealer and blah, 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 blah. And then, Daniel stand up. And of course, on this day, I get the worst translator I've ever had during this whole process. And I'm like, what the fuck is she saying? Like, come on. And she's like, oh, you're free to go. I'm like, well, you don't have to look so fucking surprised. Right? Like, yeah. But I was really nervous. I'm like, I need to know under what terms, because I was ready for them. Me and my lawyer were like, they might do guilty, time served to go home. And I didn't want that.
You didn't want that?
I didn't want to be guilty, time served. I wanted to be acquitted because I didn't do anything.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But like, if they're like, you can get the fuck out of here. It's Serbia. Who the fuck? You have a criminal record in Serbia. Who cares? Yeah, right. I
don't know. I like it there. I definitely want to go back. As fucked up as it sounds, it's awesome. I love it there. I know.
Have you been back since then?
No.
I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, what? Under what circumstances? She's like, oh, you're innocent. You're acquitted of everything. I'm like, okay, good. And everyone's like, weren't you like so excited? I'm like, no. I was like, this should have happened fucking 18 months ago.
Right.
Wow, there's nothing to be excited for. I just had 18 months robbed from me. I'm excited. So the judge is like, look, in perfect English, she's like, hey, I'm sorry this happened to you. I hope this doesn't make you view Serbia in a bad light. The state is to pay for all your legal fees, damages, like all this shit. And I'm like, cool. She's like, but you got to go back to prison to go get your shit. And then you have to go back to the police station for customs because you've been here too long. I'm like, motherfucker.
Oh, they just want to fuck you.
Oh, yeah, man. So I go back to prison. everyone's like, hey, I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. And everyone's like cheering in the yard, like, fuck yeah. You know?
Go kill the president.
Well, if this guy can make it out with all the bad press he had, because it's Shawshank Redemption, everyone in there is innocent, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, all right, yeah, sure. So I leave, get my shit, and then the cops escort me to the police station. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And they're like, well, you've outstayed your visa and your passport. I said, I don't think the months of me being incarcerated and then being acquitted should count against the time on my fucking passport, on my visa. And they're like, well, what were you doing here? Where's your laptop? I'm like, I said, motherfucker, and this is like in pretty good Serbian too. I'm like, hey, I already fucking did this shit. I ain't doing it again. What the fuck do you want from me? And they're like, you have to leave in 3 days. I'm like, no, I don't. No, because the time me being incarcerated, I don't have to leave in 3 days.
Oh, you wanted to stay.
No, I didn't want to stay. I just want to tell them fuck off. I'm like, I'm like, no, that time is not going to count against me because I was in prison.
I would have been in the airport. I would have been fucking gone. Ryanair, back row, in between the fat people. Let's go.
But I'm like, no. But you got to think about it, dude. I just beat a huge charge. So you're like, you think you're invincible.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, fuck you. And then the boss comes in. He's like, how does 7 days sound? I'm like, yeah, I can do 7 days. But I was gone the next day.
Oh my God.
I was going to leave regardless.
So you were just fucking with him.
Yeah. I was pissed, dude. So pissed.
No, does Israeli billionaire guy call you at this point?
We link up, right?
In Serbia?
No. So
Okay.
Get out, talk to mom and dad, get on the flight home.
Had you talked with them at all in the last 18 months? Like,
no, you're not allowed.
You had no contact.
Zero.
With anybody?
No.
They had to be shitting themselves at home.
No, because the guy from the State Department was saying, oh, it's like a hotel. They're just hanging out.
Oh, my God.
And I showed pictures, went online, showed my mom. She's like, that's not a fucking hotel. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Oh, it was fucking crazy.
They're like airbrushing your face. On
like, look how happy he is. He's on vacation. No, my lawyer was cool because I would write. I'd say, give me your paper. I'd say, Mom, it's cool. Don't believe anything. Don't talk to anybody. I'm safe. I love you. And he'd be like, okay, I'll send that out. Wow. So there was that, but nothing else. So I get home and my mom and dad and brother are there. And I'm like, what's up, guys? They're like, hey, but my mom and dad know me and they know what I do and I travel. And they're like, you good? I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. And then go back to San Diego, hang out with the fam and kind of bopping around. Go to SEAL Team 17. Like, yeah, dude, we kept extending you, but we had to, your time service was up.
Wait a minute. So while you were a mercenary, you still technically were in the reserves with them?
Yeah.
That's illegal? I didn't know that.
No, because people will contract as they work for the reserves all the time.
Okay.
When you're mobilized, you can't because you're 9 to 5.
That's wild. So you were still technically a Navy SEAL during all this.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, we extended you, but we kind of had to. And I said, yeah, it's fine. I was a little pissed at first. They're like, yeah, we can't really have you in the SEAL team anymore because I'm like, I was acquitted. Like, oh, you were? Yeah, but I'm like, yeah. So they were kind of like, yeah, but still. I'm like, you know what? I was really mad in the beginning, but I'm like, you know what? We just kind of grew apart, and that's fine. You go that way, I will keep doing my thing. But at first, I was like, that's bullshit because I won and I fucking didn't do any drugs they tried to give me, and I did this and I did that, and I didn't take a plea deal, and I fucking stood my ground. And then I come back and they're like, yeah, we can't really have you part of the community anymore. And I'm like, fuck, dude, that sucks. All right, fine. I just keep moving forward. So I took a little security job for some rich guy in San Diego Hills somewhere doing some stuff. I'm like, man, what am I going to do next? I get a phone call from my boss, my friend. He's like, hey, brother, I heard you're retiring. I said, no, I'm not retiring. He's like, all right. How soon can you be in Central America? I said, how fast can you get me a ticket? He's like, I'll see you tomorrow. I said, let's do it. So I was back for 30 days and then went back to work.
Where'd you go in Central America?
You're
not going to say.
Yeah.
What kind of mission was it? Was it like a cartel kind of thing?
No.
Okay. More like rescue?
Yeah. Asset recovery.
Got it.
Right.
Interesting.
No.
You find where the Nazi den was?
No, not that kind of.
Right. I gotta ask. I gotta pry around there. So and this is like 2020 now, 2021.
2020. Yeah,
Yes, it's
July 2020.
You're
Yeah.
coming home like mid-pandemic. Was this like a little bit
No,
of
no,
a...
no. This is before.
No, the pandemic started March
Well,
2020.
then I was 2019. Then I got arrested in 18 and got out in 2019.
Okay.
That's what
All
it
right.
was. Yeah.
So you go down there.
June I got out 2019, and then July 2019 I went back to work somewhere else.
Wow. And you're still doing this stuff today.
Oh, that world has really gotten. It's hard because even in this world, I'll get 4 phone calls in 2 years. And of those 4 phone calls in 2 years, only one of them's legal, only one of them's worth my time, and only one of them's going to pay enough. So it's like, hold your breath and wait for those jobs, or what do you do? So I monitor stuff. I take phone calls. I did something last year, which is not very, like, totally low risk, nothing crazy, but I have to believe in the mission. I have to be able to sleep at night, and I have to stay on the right side of the law, and it has to be worth my time. And like, as I get older, that criteria is tighter and tighter. So I say no and no much more. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you're running in dark pools sometimes. You're running with things where it's like, well, we're saying we're the good guys, but are you?
And it's hard too, because when Libya fell, there's 2 generals trying to control Libya, and it's like, one day we will support this guy. So it's like, cool, I'm going to go help him secure an airfield. And then like the next day it's like, no, we support him. So it's like, that's going to put me in a weird spot. I'm going to stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets complicated out there, man.
Oh yeah.
But you have, guys like you have such a unique set of skills that it's always going to be relevant. And there's going to be someone calling with a big enough bag at some point, you know, that I'm sure it gets tempting sometimes that some you say no to, no?
No.
No?
Mm-mm. If it's
Even
not,
if the bag's huge.
no, I'm not super money driven. If I was,
Good
I
for
never
you.
would have joined the military, right? It's not a place to make money.
I agree with that, but also guys do know that, like, not that they're thinking about this when they join, but, especially if you're high up in the military or things like that, that's an asset when you leave.
Yeah.
People want you.
But you can also go be, everyone I know is over right across the river here,
Yeah.
and they're making bank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could go do that. Sure. Because it gives you a lot of, sets the standards that you need. Discipline, work,
And I think
educating
more
yourself.
and more people are seeing guys come out of the special operation community as more than just like jack dudes with guns. They're like, oh, their leadership, their, their leadership, critical thinking, public speaking, all that shit. They're like, we can use that in corporate. So guys are getting really good jobs now. Yeah.
What made you want to write the book? Because you're an extremely humble guy. You're someone I got to get to expand upon things.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily the guy that's like, here's everything that happened.
Yeah.
Taylor gets in here, boom. He'll just go through the whole thing. But you're more guarded with that. What made you want to like literally put your testament out there?
So I didn't. I got a phone call from a book agent who goes, hey, I heard about your story. Do you want to do a book? And I said no, because I was still doing my thing.
Right.
But then, like I said, the criteria got tighter and tighter, and the calls became fewer and far between. He called again. I said, let's do it. But I don't want it to be a SEAL book. I want it to be post-SEAL. I want to focus on things that haven't already been written about. Buds and running with a log. Like, yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then sat down and we banged it out.
And that's like a good decade-ish period, right? Like almost decade there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you going through so much of this stuff today and really like charting your career too before that, because that sets the foundation. You're on SEAL Team 5, SEAL Team 6, doing that kind of shit. It just puts you in another stratosphere. But was there anything we didn't get to today that you wanted to get to?
No, man. It's good.
I think we covered the gamut. This was fucking entertaining for Pat. Definitely entertaining for me over here.
Good job, Pat.
Yeah, thanks for Pat. Last minute addition. I scheduled this because you were going to be in town, unless he was previously scheduled to be out of town. But great fucking job today, bro. I appreciate you.
Much appreciated. Happy to be here.
Oh, There we go. I got you on
Much
there.
appreciated. Happy to be here. To all those watching, thanks for having me, and I'd love to do it again.
All right, brother. I'm sure we will. But we're going to have the link to your book down in the description below. So everyone go check that out. American Mercenary.
And I recorded the audiobook too. So if you want to hear this voice,
Oh, shit. That's awesome.
check it out.
That's
Check it.
I'm
You can-
glad you did.
And you can hear my voice acting skills because I change it up for different people in the book.
Oh, you were an actor in this too?
Oh, I went full on. And it hurt my throat too. It was like,
Are we going to get you acting in your own shit in the future? Is that a possibility?
I think I'm more behind the scenes guy.
Okay.
Voice acting, if Pixar wants to hire me, let's do it. Like, I can do the booth all day.
All right, I'm going to download the audiobook now.
All right, yeah, check it out. Check it out.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.